What's the new rule around TCS on foreign remittances and international credit card spends? Let's find out. Welcome to TOI Wallet Talks. There is a lot of confusion around the increase in TCS on Liberalised Remittance Scheme and international credit card transactions. Russell Gaitonde, partner at Deloitte India, breaks this down for us in simple terms. Hi Russell, welcome to the show.
Hi Smriti, thank you for having me.
So with regards to the new provisions that have come around TCS for not just LRS but also spends on international credit cards, could you just take us through what is it that's new that's going to come into effect soon?
The major change happened in the Union Budget 2023, wherein the tax law was amended to increase the TCS rate, which is currently at 5%. It goes up to 20% starting July 1, 2023. Okay, so the TCS rate has been increased significantly. And secondly was this recent change that the Ministry of Finance has made to the exchange control regulations as regards payments that are made using an international credit card when a person travels abroad. Now, by making the change in the exchange control law, that's had a knock-on effect onto the tax implications. So going forward, when an Indian resident uses his or her international credit card while traveling abroad, whatever payments are made using that credit card, there is going to be a TCS that is going to be applicable. And after the change that was announced by the Ministry of Finance, there was also a clarification that they issued saying that the TCS will apply only for when you cross a threshold of 7 lakh rupees per financial year. We have to see the fine print in the law.
Okay. And this is applicable to debit cards as well, this increase in TCS?
5% goes up to 20% for all types of LRS payments, whether you're making it by way of a credit card, whether you're making it by way of a debit card, whether you're drawing cash, whether you're making a bank remittance by transferring money from your Indian rupee account to an overseas bank account.
Okay. But if one were to take some typical cases from a common man's perspective, whether it is for the use of international transactions or LRS for my education, for medical expenditure, for official travel, or even for holidaying with my family or individually, in each of these cases, how do you see this new rule impacting me?
Sure. So that's a great question, Smriti. The first one on payments relating to education. So, when a student is looking at going abroad for further studies, there is no change in the law, in the tax provisions. Okay. So currently, if a student took a student loan, domestically from an Indian bank and, avail of the soft student loans that are granted by our banks in India, they would pay TCS only if the remittance was in excess of 7 lakhs in a financial year. Okay. And the TCS rate was a softer rate of 0.5%. Okay. That continues. Okay. So there's no change over there. If the student is also self-financing his or her education, then in fact the TCS rate was 5% instead of 0.5%. And again, there is no change in the tax provision over there. Then you come to medical treatment abroad. Again, over here, there is no change in the tax law. So any remittance that was made for medical treatment overseas, which was in excess of, again, 7 lakh rupees, attracted a TCS of 5%. And that 5% rate continues even going forward. So no change in the law. Where the change has actually happened is for overseas tour packages, where in fact any remittance made towards an overseas tour package under the LRS scheme was previously attracting a TCS rate of 5%. That is now going to increase to 20% starting July 1, 2023. As far as overseas tour packages are concerned, that 7 lakh limit is not there. So even if you spend, say, $1,000 in that count, you have to pay TCS. Previously at 5%, and that goes up to 20% starting July 1, 2023.
Foreign holidays are definitely becoming more expensive.
Yeah. And then of course, if you use your international credit card for any other kind of remittance under the LRS window. So for example, if you're going to say make a gift to a relative abroad, or to support a close relative overseas, or just to spend on your own spending when you're traveling, or if you're making investments in overseas securities, here again there is a change in the law. So previously, only if you remitted money in excess of 7 lakh rupees, again, there was the TCS rate of 5%. But starting July 1, 2023, the government has increased the TCS rate from 5% to 20%.
Okay, but when you're talking about this threshold limit, Russell, explain to me, let's say I have 3 credit cards. So individually for each of the credit cards, my limit is 7 lakh rupees, or it's combined because I'm an individual and therefore the tax department will be obviously able to track my spends.
Exactly. So that's the intent, Smriti. So the limit applies at an individual level, irrespective of how many credit cards he or she has. Okay. Now the way the tracking is usually done is through the permanent account number of the taxpayer. Easy to track. It's just that the processes need to be put in place.
Okay. With regards to traveling abroad, are there any common best practices in terms of my transaction spending that you would recommend to our viewers that they should take care of?
Indian residents need to keep in mind is that they need to get used to the fact that TCS will apply when they spend more than 7 lakh rupees in a financial year. Maybe then where TCS has been charged them, then they will have to file their tax returns in India and claim credit for that TCS, which they will get refunded back from the government, subject to a refund being due to them under the income tax provisions.
Russell, just generally, let's say it's a family of 4 people and they're looking to travel abroad. Is that 7 lakh limit low? Is it reasonably high? What is your take there?
The limit was low to start with. Okay. What's happened over the last couple of years with this global inflation going on, cost of living increasing significantly in foreign countries, those costs have only gone higher. I think that the 7 lakh limit will help you when you're spending money on, let's say, your meals or a little bit of shopping, or on your travel and all locally. But the moment you start using the credit card for settling hotel bills,
right,
for going for proper tours, organized sightseeing, etc., then you will consume that 7 lakh limit very quickly, because that's what it costs when you travel abroad, especially for a family of 4.
So Russell, if you could explain it to us, how does this whole refund mechanism work on TCS, and which are the individuals that are likely to be most hit with this new high TCS rule?
What is the mechanism to get a refund for your TCS? Well, the way is to file a tax return in India. Now, the way the provision work is, since TCS is a kind of tax payment by a taxpayer, like how you pay advance tax or you pay self-assessment tax. Let's say a taxpayer has an income of, say, 50 lakh rupees, okay, and let's take hypothetically the tax paid owed by the taxpayer is, say, at the rate of 20%, okay, then his or her tax liability is 10 lakh rupees.
Right.
Okay. Now, if the person has paid TCS of, let's say, 2 lakh rupees, then effectively the 2 lakh rupees of TCS that he or she has paid will be used to offset against his or her 10 lakh rupees of tax liability. So then what the person owes the Indian government is only 8 lakh rupees, and that they can pay by way of advance tax or self-assessment tax. Okay. If, let's say, the taxpayer has zero tax liability, so for example, a taxpayer who's, let's say, earned income of, let's say, 8 lakh rupees and is, through some tax planning is not required to pay any taxes in India, then the tax liability is zero. Let's say his TCS is, let's say, 1 lakh rupees. Then, he can claim a refund for that 1 lakh rupee of TCS by filing his or her tax return. And in terms of who are likely to get impacted by this TCS provision, it is going to impact certain types of taxpayers, in particular high net worth individuals. So, what was happening currently was that we have every Indian resident is allowed to send money freely overseas, up to $250,000 US in a financial year under the Reserve Bank of India's Liberalised Remittance Scheme. Okay? So if you have a family of 4, for example, a wealthy family, they could technically send up to $1 million out of the country under the LRS window. Then a few years back, when the government introduced the 5% TCS on Liberalised Remittance Scheme, what was happening is on $1 million, the family would have to pay 5% of TCS. Okay. Which was a bit of a tax to be paid, but fine. These are high net worth individuals, and they're willing to absorb that cost, because anyway they will claim that credit for that tax when they file their tax returns in India. Now, starting July 1, 2023, this tax rate of TCS is going to increase from 5% to 20%. So on $1 million of remittance that the family makes, they have to pay 20% on $1 million. And that's a significant amount of money to go cash out on. Of course, nothing changes in terms of they can file a tax return in India and claim a refund for that TCS that they pay, but it is a cash flow issue that is there.
Right.